Hi, welcome or welcome back to Wholesome and Natural Living. I am so happy you're here. Today, I am discussing what you need to know if you are considering going plant based. Now, plant based is different from being vegan, and if you want me to do a video on that, let me know. But today, we're focusing on going plant based because that's what I tend to identify more as. So, let's talk about it being plant based. So I broke this down into five parts of what you need to know if you're thinking about going plant-based. This is real talk. So let's get to it. So the first part is know your why. It is very important to know why you're deciding to go plant-based. This is a major life shift. So making sure that you have a valid reason, not valid in terms of it needs to be something people understand, but you have your own reason that is going to weather you through because this is going to be a hard process, shifting your lifestyle, your eating habits that you've grown up with, right? So you want to make sure your why. What is the reason behind me choosing to do this lifestyle? Make sure you're clear on your why. For me, I had no choice. My son was diagnosed with autism and ADHD at the age of 3, and the options were medication and therapy. I welcome the therapy. We still have therapy sessions for him right now. Therapy is important, it's helpful, but I did not want the medication. I did not want my 3-year-old on medication for ADHD for the rest of his life. So, what was the option? To shift my lifestyle. And so that was my why. And my why was very important when during those times when we were transitioning. It was very important to understand that we do not want him on medications. And so, changing our lifestyle or eating habit, because you are what you eat, was going to be the most helpful. And so that was my why. So knowing your why is very important. The second one is to do your research. You will find a lot of information out there and you have to cipher through them. And so it's important to read books, watch videos, make YouTube your best friend, um, and talk to other people. But in order for you to find these resources, you have to do initial outreach by talking to people who are plant based, by joining online communities on Facebook groups, and there are tons of them out there. But for me, I started reading books because I did not know much about this lifestyle. So at first, we kind of went a little bit vegan for a bit, but then understanding that being plant based was the most appropriate for us because we had a specific goal. And so doing research will lead you to maybe you want to start out being plant based, but maybe you want to say, well, I want to be vegan first, or vice versa, right? But you have to figure out what works for you. And so for me, I dove into books. And so some of the books some of the books and practitioners, I have my notes here, that I looked into that have helped me that I'm going to share with you is Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi was the first one that I found, and his transitional diet was very, very helpful for me. I recommend his diet plan as a transition because it really is super helpful. And then I had Dr. Laila O. Africa. Actually, have this book right here. Um, I'm in my library. I have this book right here. It was very helpful in terms of transitioning. I also had Dr. Bobby Price's Vegucation Over Medication. This is a must read. Vegucation Over Medication by Dr. Bobby Price is a must read if you're thinking about transitioning to a plant based lifestyle. It also has an online community that is very supportive. I'm a member. So, and then I have Queen Afua. Her book, Sacred Women is Transformative for Women of Color, is just phenomenal. Highly recommend her. And then I have Chef Danielle Henry. She has a YouTube channel and creates delicious, very delicious Jamaican and Caribbean inspired food. Her recipes are amazing. She has a new book out called Raw and Right. And she promotes the raw lifestyle, so it may not be what you want to start with, but I recommend her stuff. And then you have Yaki Awaken. His detoxes and teachings have helped me a lot. So making sure that you find a practitioner or a source that resonates with you. A lot of what I shared may not resonate with you, but maybe you want to find others that may resonate with you better. I also have a lot of YouTubers that I follow that have channels and that have shared their expertise and really transformative information. So I have folks like Grubany. Grubany was one of the first channels that I liked because the way he teaches how to cook mushrooms made me want to eat more mushrooms. So Grubany, and then Fully Well Christina has a wealth of information, as well as Jillian Berry. They offer great tips and insights. So the second part is to do your research and read books, find practitioners or online communities that resonates with you. So books, research, and then talking to people in real life. You'll find communities and people around you that are plant-based, that have been plant-based. Once I became plant-based, I found other plant-based people that were not too far from me. And so meeting with them in person became really supportive. Part three is the most important part, which is to plan your transition. Plan your transition. And you should plan your transition at least for a year, because that's what it requires most time. If you can do it in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, that's fine. But I think planning for at least a year and allowing yourself grace to practice making mistakes and learning and getting all that stuff is really important. It may take you over a year, maybe it may take you a year and a half, but making sure that you're consistently making progress is what's important here. So here's what I have when it comes to planning your transition. It is not a race, it's a journey. Again, if you're raising children, give yourself grace, because you're going to have to be extra patient with them. So this is what I did and how I transitioned. And it may not work for you, but just hear me out. I started out, I have two kids. I started out by reducing the amount of sugar we consumed. And I did this very slowly. And so I would buy juices at Aldi's and all these organic juices, and I would start diluting them by adding spring water to them. I would buy the juice and pour about half water, spring water in there. And they would notice, but not really. But I was getting away with it. And so I did that for about, I think I did that for about 6 weeks to about almost 2 months before I realized, oh, no one, paid attention to it. So I started by reducing the sugar by diluting store-bought juices with spring water. About a month and a half later, I started making my own juices. So I stopped buying the store-bought juices. I was making my own juices with dates and agave syrups and making lemonades and all that. I actually have a video about my nutrient dense lemonade that I started making. Next, I ease into our eating habits by introducing things like meatless Mondays. So I would have every Monday you would be eating meatless. So while juicing and reducing the juicing, we were still consuming, meat, but I started to reduce it. So started reducing the sugar, and then I eased in by, having meatless Mondays. I made taco mushroom Tuesdays. And I did that for about, I would say for about a good 3 months, where I was cutting the meat. I was cutting and adding, not just, subtracting. So that's my third point. Don't just subtract, right? Don't just remove, but replace gently. So I began incorporating more fruits, vegetables, and grains instead of focusing on what I was removing. So more grains, less meat. More mushrooms, less meat. And I started increasing the meat, the mushroom meat, the walnut meat, and the veggies. And in time, kind of remove the meat altogether. And in time became maybe about 6 months later. The fourth point is that I included the whole family. And so one of the things that really helped us was a few months later, my husband and I did the Dr. Bobby Price 28-day detox. And that really helped with your taste buds in terms of making sure it matures your taste buds. That way you can tolerate real fruit sugar and not just the artificial. And then the kids joined in. We would give them like not the amount of detox teas that we were consuming, but we would give them like half of that, and maybe put a little bit of agave in it because it was very bitter, and but that would help them out in terms of their taste buds as well. So planning your transition is very important. You got to be very intentional about it. What I did may or may not work for you, but I'm sure those tips, would help. And if you stumble, remember that it's part of the process. There are days when I didn't prepare, a meal, and so they went to family member's house and had to eat all day. That's okay. There were days when, I just didn't have it in me to make it. And so we didn't have the fresh juice that week or whatever, or that day. And that's fine. Okay. The next week, the next day, I got right back up. So it's okay to stumble. It's okay. You should expect to stumble because that's when you're going to learn habits are really important. And so I learned that I have to make the juices earlier in the week in order to make sure we have enough for the entire week. So those are important. Part 4, going plant-based is affordable. You just have to have a formula. And what is the formula? Buying in bulk. So I would buy things like hemp seeds, dates, quinoa, mushrooms from Costco because I get more bang for my buck that way. The next thing is mix and match markets. So what did I do? I shop at Aldi's in the winter and switch to my local farmers market when they open or during the summer months. So I did that just because it was just Aldi's is all around affordable. So it's, stores like Stop and Shop, if you have them nearby. I would just go there, and then when my farmers market opens, I would go and get like, a variety of other fruits and vegetables in bulk, and it's much cheaper. I prioritize organics. I only bought organic when it was necessary, like berries. So we have berries most mornings, either mixed fruit berries or frozen berries, and have like smoothies. So berries are on the Dirty Dozen list. So you want to make sure your berries are organic. And when it comes to apples and other fruits, I went conventional. So if you look at the little sticker on your fruits, if it's a 4 or higher, it tends to be conventionally grown. If it's lower than a 4, then it tends to be less inferior. Don't really quote me on that, but that's what I learned from that, is that if you're going to go conventional, just look for the number. If it's 4 or higher, it tends to be a lot safer. All right, so that's that. Prioritizing organics. Plan before you buy. Make a weekly meal list to reduce waste and avoid impulsive buying. That's all. When I had a list, I knew exactly what I needed. I knew exactly what to go for. I knew when it was on sale, and it was much more seamless. And then the final part of the tips is to grow your own food. So in spring 2023, I started experimenting with the kitchen garden. I remember being a very very small little girl in Haiti. My great grandmother had a kitchen garden, and I didn't get to live there for very long. But I remember she was so vibrant. She was so, and she was in her early 80s. And my great grandmother would run after animals and do all this stuff. It's because she had a lot of vitality in her, and it was her kitchen garden. She would always wake up and do all these things that I'm doing now, except that she never really explained why she was doing them. So I began to just start growing my own food. I started small with just small plants like peppers, eggplants, and then I learned slowly, and then started growing things like what leeks and other vegetables, but that took time. And if you don't have space, because we have a backyard, you can just use vertical planters, or like a green stalk, or like stackable planters, or little pots on your windowsill. That's just very important to grow your own food. All right, so part 5, the last part, is to stay the course. Give it a year. Be patient with yourself. This journey will challenge you, not just physically, but emotionally and socially. So here are my 5 tips for staying the course. Prepare for resistance. Some family members and friends may not understand, and that's okay, right? Because you have a why and you know why you're doing this. Plan ahead. Choose restaurants in advance when eating out with friends and make sure that there are options that you're comfortable with. Journal your journey. I did that and realized I had small milestones that we were meeting. Track your wins, your progresses, and reflect a lot. Celebrate the milestones, even the small ones. Like a week without processed sugar was phenomenal for us, and I love that for us. And we celebrated by making a dessert with dates and sweets that we were now welcoming and consuming more of. Finally, find your tribe. Find a group of people that welcome change and, are looking to incorporate more of a healthy lifestyle in their lives, because that will also help you. Find online communities. Join mine online community. I'm hoping to build an online community where we can discuss these things. Join the other YouTubers and the other practitioners that I mentioned. Dr. Bobby Price has a very good online community. Follow all these YouTubers that I mentioned because they have great tips and have helped me a lot when I didn't have an in-person community or in-person support. It was just my husband and I. So if you're thinking about going plant-based, it's doable. If you're doing it for your health, it's worth it. If you're doing it for quality of life, it's worth it. Just make a plan. Download my guide that I will have with this video. It might help you. And stay the course. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take good care. Bye.